Good morning. What's going on out there? You know, there are certain things about what we've all been going through that I have made a conscious choice to seek the positivity in. Like, I'm 100% sure I'm not reinventing the wheel here, but uh, I know millions upon millions of people have realized that uh, this time has given them so much time to think. You know, and I feel like those that spend their time wisely can gain a lot of clarity. At least that's been my experience. Yes, I am a fool for Starbucks, so I make my own at home. But, it's so faithful to the same. It tastes like if I went and grabbed some Starbucks, like a regular latte or something, and I dumped it out and poured the stuff that I make at the pad in it, I'd fool you. Shit tastes good. I don't have some of the bonuses that you get in Starbucks, like with a lot of the add-ins, but like a basic. I make a. This is so ironic because of me myself, but I make a hybrid of a chocolate and vanilla latte. You know, freeze it so I can have my own. You know, but because there's so many folks that it's hard to escape too, just because people are so open. They don't censor themselves on social media. I don't mean it in a negative way, but you know how people feel like there's no laundry that shouldn't be aired. And when you observe that and people are open like that, you can see the stream of consciousness of a lot of people. Similar to how I'm doing here, but you know, I'm about to get on here and talk about everything. But the last thing I do is wake up and start my day or anything that I post and have it centered around or continually infused with negativity. Shit, even the people that got it good, you know, have more than likely seen certain aspects of their quality of life diminish, even if minimal. You know, it's still noticeable. But for those that have it the worst, you know, that begs the question, what has really changed for them? Like, if someone already has it as worse as it possibly can be, can it get any worse? You know? And me choosing to focus on the positive side rather than the negative side, it's so illuminating sometimes because throughout this whole experience, man, like, yes, I've had um, the normal feelings that anyone else would have, you know, changing their life and, the way you got to right now. And that, yes, there are many aspects that are not as fun when you have your options so limited, but I heard some years ago a philosopher talking about this concept of manufacturing your own happiness, you know, and I took it to heart because at the time uh, it made some sense, but certain things in life you have to actually put into action, experience to be able to truly understand them, you know. And I have found that focusing on that you can, hey, don't start. You're being so good, it's nice and quiet. Focusing on that has been very beneficial, you know. Because you can go on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, one of the big three, right? And pick somebody off of your friends list or your followers or whatever, and just go back, start at their timeline now, and just scroll back a month, scroll back 2 months, read and observe everything, you know. And you can see that some are handling a lot better than others, you know, and that troubles me because although a lot of the issues and trials and tribulations we face are serious, you know, shit could get or could be a whole lot worse than it already is, you know. And some of the extreme acting out stuff that you see from people, it makes you ponder, you know, like in a situation that was substantially worse, who would that person be? How would they behave? Would they become a different person? You know, and a lot of these things because social media is like a mirror. You know, it's a lot easier to understand when you're able to, when you have a little bit of experience with it, to look through some of the facades and masks that people put up. You know, and a lot of them are easily identifiable. You know, because hindsight is a motherfucker, man. Like, I was the, my family was the first family that I knew with internet. So as far as North America, you know, I've been in it since the jump. I wasn't a late adopter. I still remember the first computer my family got that was internet connected. And that's the irony of it right now because pre-internet, right? You would see depictions of how technology would advance in television, movies, scientific journals, stuff like that. What it might be, what the potential is, what we have at hand that could develop in the future, right? And that's the irony of social media because one of the very first things I ever did on the internet was this is funny too, play games because I'm a gamer. So I think I started with spades and Tetris games in AOL.com lobbies. I'm really dating myself. You know, that's fine with me too. I'm happy to be older, but back to the point. Um, just doing those things and starting at that point. One of the things that I loved was that the way anonymity is used as a weapon today in the social media sphere. Back then, I really enjoyed it because that the access to a keyboard and an internet connection, it was different. Where instead of people today putting on these whole fake personas and being someone they're not, uh, it was so enjoyable because people actually did the opposite and connected them with themselves. You know, when there are a lot of aspects of it that are very, very positive, but it's sort of become a caricature of itself. You know, you look at all of the social things in the world that can be helped or fixed with social media, and people use it for frivolous shit. You know, when like we have tools like this that in many different ways in many different places have made big changes in the world, you know, but it should be way more than it is. And I think a lot of the reason why it's not is just because of whatever it is in human nature to not want to be honest and give this perspective of yourself that's not reality. You know, like when I turn this camera off, you know, I don't distinguish me sitting here talking to you between me sitting here by myself talking to another person face to face. You know, I don't. It's like as being a young person and valuing being truthful over being deceitful. You know, because I played both sides of that coin as a young person, having lower moral standards allowed me to do a lot of things I would never do today. But part of aging, you learn that, you know, like, I am glad that I am the age I am now when the internet became what it is today. You know, because some of the same things that irritate me about people on the internet today, when I was young and I was a knucklehead, this type of environment would have been fertile ground for the bullshit that I enjoyed. And so all these things, they they come into laser focus in times like these, man. But the one good thing about it too is that people that are really hardcore on perpetrating online, you know, like whatever they're doing, they know in their bones and their soul that it's not who they are or the truth. You know, they uh, they succeed. You know, And it makes you think sometimes. Like, you see it a lot where when people get exposed for, just take one random thing that's popular, like somebody saying something extremely xenophobic, and getting completely canceled, right? When everyone in their life has said some stupid shit, you know? And instead of um, being up in arms with the right motivations and being pure of heart, people get agitated or angry about the least important aspect of it, you know? And then will come the obligatory apology, and if they're lucky or if they got enough influence or wealth, they can ride it out. But I think it's a good example of where I began with some of the things that I'm speaking about. My dogs always conspire to distract my train of thought. Because, man, like, so, and like I said, I feel like I've been blessed to be here at 41. So, I'm not ashamed or defensive to say my age or stuff like that, because I'm happy to be here. And I'm mentioning that because this whole dynamic with COVID, with, like, pre-COVID, people knew social inequality, systemic racism, the unbalance of distribution, all these things existed, you know. But a lot of people benefit from it indirectly, even if they don't support it. And before a lot of this stuff, people could, be silent and get away with it, And something that I observed where times like this should, I don't even think I should qualify it by saying theoretically. People should, these situations should bring out the best in people, as a whole, as a collective. Humanity itself should be able to use trying times like this to be better people as individuals and as a species, And it's so bewildering to just see social constructs basically just devolve into, throwing feces, you know? And it ties back into this positivity versus negativity thing, where I don't even think, like, a lot of people think just a positive affirmation is just that it doesn't have any physical power or being nice to someone or doing good things. As though they only have self-beneficial properties, when all of these millions of people who have died from this disease, I think, man, if we were truly out for each other like we're supposed to be, Not only would this shit not be half as bad as it is, that the recovery time and all these things wouldn't even be half as gigantic a hill to climb if people lived their lives that way, if people thought that way, behaved that way, where let me give an example. So I live in a much more diverse environment than I grew up in as a kid. You know, um, where I grew up at was you had black folks and you had white folks, and that was it. You know, um, living in different places on different sides of the country. You know, I've lived on 2 out of the 3 coasts, basically. You know, and out of these 3 places I've lived, let me wait until this loud vehicle goes by. The last place I lived and the place I live now is a good example of some of this. Okay, so where when you see some of these values that are on display today, morally, um, politically, conservatism versus liberalism, where a conservative viewpoint may be to not necessarily watch someone that's injured bleed out or watch someone that is starving and not feed them, but to basically live by a rule of, you know, I'm not going to help, and label it something like a handout and demean it and stuff like that, right? In times like these, it becomes so crystal clear because at various points, I say last year, you know, I did what I could when I could to help people around me. Where I live now has a lot of different immigrant families from a lot of different places, you know. And I'm gonna tell this part just because it's a good example of how when things are good, we neglect each other. So what happens when things aren't as good? You know, um, during the first few months of this last year or whatever, I had some immediate neighbors that were Congolese, and I would say the father and one of the children were pretty fluent in English. Everyone else was not at all. So I had to use a lot of hand signals and try to communicate. It's different when you can't understand each other. But I knew like that I'm not wealthy. And if the things that I go through are difficult, what must a person or a family experience who has less than me as an individual? I'm talking about a family as a collective have less than me as an individual. And I couldn't speak to them, they couldn't speak to me. But several times over, like this is back when I still physically went to get groceries, I would, you know, try to put between $10 and $20 in my cart and share it with them, you know, because I could see that it wasn't just either kids or grown-ups in the family that were struggling. It was all around, you know. And I couldn't, the way I was raised, like, I'm not about to cut off my nose to spite my face. Like, I can't give someone 10 packs of ramen noodles if I only have two, you know. Like, I can't, or else I'd starve, you know. But being that I'm not wealthy, it was a stretch for me to even start doing some of this stuff. But there are a lot of people like this in the world where empathy and compassion holds a very strong place in their personality, their philosophical beliefs, the way they see the world, you know. And some of these things that have been magnified during this crisis, it becomes evident to me, like, a lot of people can live their lives and put their head on the pillow at night and be comfortable looking the other way when other people are suffering or struggling, you know. And I can't be like Michael Jackson and heal the world, but I ain't about to be all cozy and tucked in and see something that I can help with or do something and not, you know. And that one example is something that I've tried to do on multiple occasions, different ways, not just food, you know. When you step back from it and you know these things as an individual, you know, like, I was the one that did these things, so no one else can, you know, unless you do the same things, to know what that feels like, you know. And